Hey guys, D-Mike here for another episode of Super Nintendo Sundays. Hope you're all doing well. Last time we took down Chill Penguin, and there's actually some cool stuff on this intro screen that I didn't show off last time that I want to now. So we start off on the map screen, or actually the stage screen of seeing kind of the chilly area where we fought Chill Penguin, but there's a spec screen where you can see some dimensions and then kind of what their attacks are. Not that that's really useful to you until you fight them, but kind of cool. You can see that Chill Penguin is about the height, almost the height of I think like an average woman. I think it's at 5'3". So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, so Chill Penguin was first, not too bad. Things start to ramp up a little bit though, because the bosses going on here forward you have their weakness, so we'll say it like that. For those of you who have played Mega Man games before in the past, that's kind of a core tenet of what makes these games unique, is that as you fight them, you absorb their power, you steal their life force like a succubus, like a bad ex-girlfriend, and you have their ability once you finish fighting them. Now, in certain cases, they have abilities that are pretty synonymous with what the actual boss is doing. Like in Chill Penguin's case, it's not, he doesn't use shotgun ice. That's not a weapon that he has during the fight. He can dash back and forth and make little clones of himself, but that's about it. And he spits out the little ice cubes, but in general, it's not really the same thing. But it is what it is. Having the weakness is nice when you fight bosses in the future, as you'll see. So we have to fight this weird electric Metroid. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be, but this boss is a pain in the butt if you don't know what you're doing. It'll shoot out its goo on you, and you don't want to be covered in anyone's goo. That's just a matter of fact. So he'll cling to the ceiling, he'll recharge, he'll bounce around. You have to be careful, because the rule of thumb in this game is that if you get hit by a boss or a mini boss, that's going to do a ton of damage to you. Their attacks won't really inflict too much damage on you, but being hit by them does a ton, so you don't want that. So just try to be cognizant of where you are in space. Dashing around is important. I have a really bad habit when I play these games of always trying to have a charge shot ready, but the reality of that is that's not always the best plan, because what that does is it forces you to kind of crab your hand around the controller if you're playing with a Super Nintendo controller or something similar. And unless you're very dexterous, which I am not always, trying to shoot, dash, and move all at the same time is pretty tricky, so I wouldn't recommend it. We've got these little weird kind of rocket car things flying back and forth. They will aggro on you very quickly, and they are kind of annoying. They're like a unicycle kind of enemy. It's a little tough to get around them. You got to kind of dash and try to throw off their pattern, but then if you get a good dash up and above them, then you can avoid them, which is kind of cool. Very useful. I have to say, this is probably not an unpopular opinion, but Spark Mandrill's theme in this game is kind of known as being, I would say, the best song in the game, which is unfortunate that in the current route that I'm taking in terms of bosses, I'm doing it second. I'd like to hear it more, but we will be coming back. That is something that is not required in this game, but for 100%, we are going to have to revisit the stages eventually. That is something that is prevalent in all Mega Man games, at least the X series, that you have to go and make a second trip back in order to grab some collectibles that you're unable to do initially in your first time around. And that's usually dependent on an item that you'll get from a boss later on in the game, or a special ability that we don't have yet. So here's Spark Mandrill. He's kind of a big boy, and he's a little scary. Now you can fight him with just the Buster, but as you can see, the Buster's only doing maybe about a bar of damage a piece. So don't hesitate to use your special abilities. That's why you got them. Some people think that this is cheesing the game when you do this, especially when you use the special ability and then have the enemy fall right into you, which is not great gameplay. But yeah, using the shotgun ice, it freezes him temporarily, gives him some iframes, and then once he recovers from that, you can shoot him again. I'm trying not to prioritize the special weapons too much. I want to be able to show off all the boss's special moves and techniques, so that way you can get a good feel for it. I mean, I could just sit there in the corner and blast him with the shotgun ice, but at the very least, you got to see him shoot off a couple of his sparks and then cling to the ceiling. But defeating Spark Mandrill goes with the electric spark. We kind of turn a bit of a goldenrod color. And those sparks that he had are the ones that we gain in this fight. Which is, like I said, kind of contrary to Chill Penguin. Chill Penguin doesn't give you anything. That is what he did, you know. It'd be cool if you could make little penguin statues, but anyway. So let's go back to the specifications screen and highlight our next boss, the Armored Armadillo. He's a big boy. He does exactly as you would expect on the tin. And his stage is a cave, kind of like a mine is what it looks like. We're going to take them on next. The order of the bosses that I'm doing is based on the weakness chain that I gained from using Chill Penguin as my first choice. Once again, not required. You don't have to do these bosses in this order. This is just kind of the canon order that I choose whenever I play, because it gives me the weakness chain that is necessary to make recording a little bit easier. So we're here in the mine. We're here playing Minecraft. This level is filled with geese and ostriches and these little hard hat guys from the original Mega Man. I like to refer to this stage as the government spy stage because there are plenty of birds and winged creatures here that are not actually real. So this is some very shifty government spy that's going on. So we're going to keep creeping through this mine. You saw early on there was a kind of a crusher thing that was coming after us. That's actually not a huge deal the first time around that you fight it, but the second time around you are going to want to be more careful. There are 2 of them. This is the kind of stage that feels kind of like an auto-scroller because you're forced to ride these carts, which is kind of fun. But you have to be careful as well because it can kind of launch you in all kinds of weird directions. Now here's the second crusher. You're going to have to be very, very careful with this excavator. If you jump down that pit into the right and you land on its spikes, the claw, it will kill you. So don't do that. You're going to want to try to take it out fast because this crusher is going to prevent us from getting a special prize if you don't get to it quickly enough. So we got a life up. I think that gives you 2 bars of life, maybe 3. I couldn't exactly tell, but there are a few of those in this game. I believe there's 1 per stage, and we're going to collect all of them. This stage is the first one that actually has the life up be accessible to you without any sort of a special weapon. It's just timing. You're going to have to get to the boss as fast as you can, or the crusher at least, as fast as you can, the mini boss. So here we go. We're already at the boss. So this should be easy, probably 1 try, I would assume. Go ahead and take a look at your timeline and see if you're right. See if I'm right. So here's Armored Armadillo. You get a little bit of a health refresher at the end right before you fight him. The first time around, at least. So here we go. Armored Armadillo is, shockingly, an armadillo. His kind of rolling animation, where he tucks into that ball, is his way of being impervious to our shots, so we can't do anything here. He's going to shoot these weird little forehead blasts at us and then bounce around the room. He's weak to the Spark Mandrill Spark, which is a really good move, but you also have to be mindful of the forehead bursts. I'm not entirely sure what those are. Gives me a headache just thinking about it. So yeah, Spark Mandrill's weapon is the weakness of Armored Armadillo. The downside, though, is you don't have a ton of opportunities to really attack it. It's going to be jumping into its spinning animation as we try to pull out the shotgun ice, which is useless. But yeah, Armored Armadillo is a very defensive boss, as you could have guessed. But the cool thing is that the moment that you use the spark attack, it prevents it from being able to use those defensive capabilities while it's static. So before you saw that it was crossing its arms and deflecting our attacks. You knock off that armor with a few well-timed spark attacks. No more armor, bye-bye. So that wasn't a very good run-through. Part of the reason why I was able to do Spark Mandrill in 1 shot was that I did a little bit of practicing for you guys, for the fans. Not really, I just got kind of bored while I was on a trip and I needed something to do, and so in some downtime I decided to practice a little bit. And I did not practice Armored Armadillo, so sometimes when you have a little bit less muscle memory for bosses, it doesn't hurt to lean on the special weapons, because they are the weaknesses of the boss. They do more damage. They immobilize the boss with some iframes, as you saw. Some people think it's cheesing it to do that in the game. Some people are purists and will do buster only runs, which is fine. I think that's actually really fun to do. However, until you've really got the muscle memory down for the different bosses' patterns, it's going to be kind of brutal to try to do that. I'm sure with enough practice anybody could, but it just gets a little tedious, especially considering that, ooh, those iframes saved me. If you don't get to that level of comfort when you're fighting the boss, you're just going to wind up having to go through a lot of lives. I mean, if you wanted to practice, like if you were using an emulator, then you could save state, you could go back and forth and just kind of save right before the boss and continue to get runs in if you wanted to. Oh, that's lame. No health for the keys. From the keys. I don't actually know what those are called. Heckin' bats is all I know. So let's try the shotgun ice on the excavator to see what it does. The one downside to some of these special weapons is they're very situational, and a lot of the time they're pretty useless. I don't know if it's supposed to be an indictment on Chill Penguin that the shotgun ice sucks, but it kind of does. It's not really useful for pretty much anything. So the game throws us a bone, figuring, hey, you're having some trouble. How about we throw you a pity life? That was very nice of it. And some pity energy too. That's pretty cool. You don't really need to grab any energy up prior to this point because like I showed before, if you jump up to the top of the cliff up here, there is a full or like a half energy. I think that it heals 5 bars, maybe 6. So it's about maybe half a third. Not bad. I'm looking at the bars on like the side of my screen and like it seems like an optical illusion, but I don't think all of them are the same size. But I could be wrong. Who knows? All right, so take 2 with Armored Armadillo. The bouncing around pattern is pretty consistent. You just basically have to stay out of the way, not get hit by him, like that. That's just an example of what not to do, so you're welcome. But we've got 2 more lives left, so let's try to whip out the old spark. Throw a little energy into this fight. I really like the designs of the bosses in this game. I think that's kind of one of the best parts. And I don't really feel like they ever got it quite as right as they did in this one. And that's probably just me being a purist and being biased. I mean, I would also say like the simplicity, oh, there's another death. The simplicity of the designs in this one, because they didn't really have anything to go off of besides the original games, allows them to kind of really nail it. Where in the future they had less things to really work with, and so you kind of have to dig a little deeper to be creative. So there we go, 1 life left, 1 life yet to live. So we better make this one count. The thing that really gets under my skin are these little headshot bursts that it fires at us. I'm not really a fan of those. But I do think Armored Armadillo is a really fun fight, and his item that you get from fighting him is actually it's close to what he uses when he rolls around, and also it's one of the weapons that's pretty required to finish the game. I mean, not in the sense of like necessary, but it makes it easier on you, and I'm sure that's always something that people would look forward to. You don't want to make it harder on yourself if you don't have to, unless you're looking for like a challenge run or something like that. But there we go, 2 bosses down in 1 episode. We get the rolling shield, nice salmon color. Hopefully you don't have any shellfish allergies or fish allergies. Maybe you're a pescatarian and you love this. So there you go. If you want to follow my code, you can pause the video and write that down, screenshot it. So that's that, everybody. Armored Armadillo, Spark Mandrill, 2 bosses down. So far, so good. I'll see you guys next time for Super Nintendo Sundays. I've been D-Mike. Bye.